Alright, so there's what your wire is going to look like with it heat shrinked, connected, crimped. Now you're going to want to put a little heat shrinker cover on that so that way that doesn't touch anything when it hits power. This wiring here, the eyelet is not big enough, or the butt connector I should say, is not large enough to accept the factory wire, of course, because why would we make something for a car that it doesn't work for, right? Who does that? Only everybody. So I'm gonna just cap that. This is wired and this is fine. I may have misspoke earlier. These do not need to be grounded to the FPDM. These grounds need to go to the FPDM bracket. So this is a 10 mil. So we're gonna pull the 10 off, ground those, and then I will mount these. Probably gonna mount them a little bit higher on the higher side, just because I do have my VMP trunk ice tank that's gonna sit in the spare well, and I wanna make sure I have room, and you know, obviously nothing will get wet or sit low. All right, here's part 70 of the return fuel system install. This is the final part here. I have the Lethal Performance wiring kit since I have their Division X hat. You could run a 4 FC2, Aeromotive, whatever you want for a fuel pump controller. It's raining right now, but it's perfect right there. It's not raining right there. Anyways, so part 1 of the instructions is on the 11 and up GT cars. There's a yellow wire with a gray tracer, which is this one right here, as we can see. They want you to cut that wire about 4 inches down, so figure right about there, and then you will crimp on this blue to that. And then the 2 relays here, as you can see, they have these eyelets on it. They want you to ground it on the same bracket as the FPDM is, so I'm going to ground them right there to that nut, so you have to remove that nut. Crimp this. They do not give you heat shrink for it, so be prepared to have your own heat shrink tube, which I have here. Looks like I'm going to need another one for this one actually, and this one, so I need 3 of them total. So I'm going to heat shrink that and then tape it up nice with my felt heat tape here. So this is basically your power, your trigger from when you key on, sends it to this, goes to this, gives this power. So make sure after you cut and crimp this wire, you plug this thing back into your fuel pump driver module, which is right here. So let's start here. Alright, so I just taped up this wiring here. I sent 2 self-tappers through this plastic trim panel. They're not, you know, super secure, but it's secure enough where that's not going anywhere. These I'm going to screw into the body of the car here. And then what I'm doing is I'm just going to zip tie the harness to the main harness here, which travels up underneath the back seat. And as you come around here, this red power wire goes all the way to the front to the battery. So I'm going to see if I have enough lead to go across, up, and then through the firewall there to get to the battery. That's the most direct, instead of coming up here, going to the firewall, going across. I think that would look like shit, in my opinion. This connector will obviously plug into the factory plug here, and I'm going to see what the yellow has to do with anything, and this black one. I'm sure the black is ground, which should go to the ground here. And then the yellow, I know I have a pigtail for this. That's the fuel level sender, but I'm going to see why I only have 1, not 2. So we'll go from there and see what happens. But it is about to pour. I got to shut the windows on the old TC. So as usual, not much done, but a little forward progress. All right, so this is the final product. 2 relays mounted there. The little fuse holders mounted there. All that wiring's all buttoned up. I have now run the power cable along with the factory body harness all through here up to the front under the seat. If you really want to be overkill, you could definitely heat wrap or whatever this stuff's called, the shrink tube, over the wiring if you really want to be crazy. I don't really care at this prime moment, as you can all see. I've routed it all here, nice under the seat. I'll pull this off so you can see. That's it. So I'm going to continue routing this. I'm going to go across the I'm gonna come up here, go under the rug, go up the front so you don't see it, and run that right to the battery. And then now I'm gonna make my connections here in the trunk, or in the back seat I should say. So I just want to see what this thing says. So black wires, ground them once the relays have been mounted. Run wires with the 6-pin connector on the end of them to the fuel hat. You can run the wires along the back of the trunk under the carpet. It's easiest to pull the grommet up first, cut with a blade in order to pass the wire through. What does this want you to do? Back of the trunk under the carpet to the grommet located above the fuel tank. Alright, so maybe it wants you to run them through the floor of the car underneath. And now, I don't really care. Like I said, I'm going to have an exposed trunk like this anyways, since it's a race car. Once wires pass through the underside of the car, you'll plug the 6-pin connector into the Division X hat, blah, blah, blah. No, if you're using this harness with an older model hat, which I'm not, the last part of the installation will be running the red power wires to the battery. I'm not going to do that. On the driver's side, solder and heat shrink the fusible link with the ring terminal on it to the 2 red power wires, which is that supplied there. So you're going to crimp that, put the heat shrink over it, and then run that to the battery, to the positive stud on the distribution box, which is under the hood there. I'll show you that. On the wire harness, the 6-pin connector meets the fuel hat. You'll see 2 short wires with butt connectors crimped onto them. These are for the level sender. You're going to connect the yellow wire to the yellow harness on the lethal hat. Then connect the black or purple wire in the lethal harness to the black-orange wire on the stock wiring harness. So let's see how much truth there is to that one there, because that doesn't sound correct. All right. So here, I have my black wire, which is cool, and here's my yellow. So I'm just going to run black to black, and then these are yellows. So it looks like what I need to do is, it's like we're missing a piece to the puzzle here, people. Let's see. I know I have one of these pigtails. I don't have fuel pump pigtails, so how the hell is the pump going to get power? Alright, so here's this. So I'll probably pin this, because this is the fuel level sender one, but it only has 1 wire. That does not make any sense. So I'm going to do black to black, and then the yellow is my only unknown, and then the red power. Unless, like it said in the instructions, oh, almost fell and died, hold on. This might be the older hat. If you're using this harness with an older model hat which doesn't have the 6-pin connector on it, you can cut the 6-pin connector off the harness and wire the harness directly to the black wires on the hat. The 2 black go to the black ground, the orange and green power wires on the harness go to each red wire. On the wire harness, the 6-pin connector meets the fuel hat. You'll see 2 short wires with butt connectors. Those are for the level sender. You're going to connect the yellow wire in the lethal harness to the yellow wire on the stock harness, then connect the black or purple wire. So maybe it's just a 1 wire is all it needs. So I'll crimp that, I'll make that little connector, and we'll see what happens from there. Thanks for sticking through this here. All right, I'm on the final leg here of the wiring. I just ran it through the same kick out here as my select shift wires. I really don't plan on driving this car in the rain or anything crazy, but your splash shield would cover this anyways if you did the same thing I did. So I ran the cable through that hole in the body. I came out through the top, ran it behind the air conditioning line, and here I am, right here. So now I'm just going to cut it to fit, crimp this on and connect it to this 10mm stud or nut here, and then we're done. All right, so this is where I'm at on the hat. I'm almost done here. Made a few trips to Leafville because they're local to me to see if they had a quick connect pigtail that went from the pigtail harness on this to the hat, but that's for 0304 Cobra stuff only. So I did have to just cut the end off, and I'm going to, I crimped connectors on it. I still have to heat that up to shrink it. These are for your fuel level sensor, so to speak, but I'm gonna go with black and yellow first, and I'm gonna run them to the factory color wires, which are these two girls on the end here. I have the blue and the yellow, the smaller ones. The two bigger wires are your power wires for your original fuel pump, so you don't want to use those. So I'm just going to use these two small ones. I'm going to connect them to yellow and black. It doesn't matter which orientation does what. I'm probably just going to do yellow to yellow and black to the dark colored one and see what happens. I'm going to see what this third wire does here, because I know this was in the hat plugged in, so I guess we'll see what happens. If this wire does nothing, I may put a wire on this one and test it. I really don't know. We're going to see here why I have an extra one, but just wanted to post an update here.